I always felt for most of my life, certainly when I was younger, that there were certain hacks or certain habits that I should be applying, that somehow I needed to improve my life, and that by applying these to my life, I could move my life in a new direction. If I was lucky, I could get them to last maybe a week or maybe a month, but pretty soon that new habit fell by the wayside. However, having spent 40 years studying meditation and minimalism, there are certain things that I have and managed to apply which have fundamentally changed and hugely impacted my life in a positive way. And I wanted to share those with you. Maybe you'd find them of value. Number one is ride with the flow. So when you first start a minimalist journey, maybe there are some big ticket items you do, like you empty the kitchen and you work out exactly what's functioning and useful to you, and the rest you get rid of. Or you empty every single wardrobe in your house and you go through all the clothing and all the bedding and you get rid of all the stuff that you never use and never have used. And those are kind of big ticket items that you see massive change very quickly. I know when I first moved into this house with my wife, we had a room full of boxes. It took us months, but we went through every single box and we turfed out all the crap, all the garbage that we'd acquired over decades of living, and got rid of it. And what an amazing process that was. But it's also really important to note that minimalism, like many things in life, is cyclical. So you can't maintain that level of passion, that level of attention indefinitely. And so it's okay to slow down. It's okay, as I call it, to find a middle way, a middle ground within that process, where we have this notion that minimalism is living in an empty room with white walls, and it's not. It's living with things that really bring you joy and really, or have a function, and getting rid of the clutter, the crap that's been in the back of your cupboard in your kitchen for months and you've used it maybe once. And that from then on, it's really a process. It's an ongoing process of evaluating the things in your life, like that cup, or like that new T-shirt, or like that glass you use for drinking water, etc. And really holding that in your hand and asking yourself whether it still brings you value or still brings you joy. This process, all I'm saying is, doesn't have to be dramatic every week. It can be an ongoing process. And that ongoing process will shift from the cutlery drawer. Maybe it'll move to finance, that you finally look at your finances and start to simplify them. Or you look at your health and you actually do something about it, that you start to move your body and eat more cleanly, etc. So it doesn't necessarily have to be, like I said, big ticket items. And it will change. As time goes by, it moves and changes. It's in flux like everything else. The next one is silent wealth. So we are born into a culture where having more is considered to be the ultimate. You need more money and a bigger house and a nicer car, etc., etc., a better job or a business, and then two businesses, and on and on and on it goes. But actually, for me, I think partly because I didn't ever really feel like I fitted in, that those kind of things didn't really interest me. And I lived a lot of my time alone, as in meditation centers or monasteries. And so those kind of things didn't really apply to me, and maybe they don't for you either. And I found that what I really wanted in my life was space, and I wanted time. I didn't want to be endlessly working for a wage, and endlessly trying to climb that ladder where whatever you have is not enough. That we're constantly looking for more. And I recognised that actually it wasn't stuff, it wasn't having an Armani suit or driving a better car that really made any difference to my life. It was quality time with my wife, quality time with my family, and quality time with my friends, that I recognised, and I'd seen in my own experience, that people I knew who were nearing death, they didn't talk about how they'd improved profit margin on their business by 10% over 20 years. It was those amazing moments with their family, that incredible holiday they had or vacation somewhere, that those were the things that really mattered, the connections they made with people that really mattered in their lives. And accumulating stuff, they weren't talking about that when they were dying. They weren't talking about the Porsche Carrera they had in the garage when they were dying. These things are clearly immaterial. The next one is a classic, which is comparison is the thief of joy. That I think it's built into our DNA, this idea that we have to compare ourselves with others, and it's a killer. I mean, it really is a dreadful thing that we constantly feel like we have to self-improve, not only in terms of finance or money or car, or we do it with relationships and we do it with our spiritual practice too, that whatever we acquire or whatever we recognize, it's not enough. We constantly want something else. We want what we haven't got, and we don't want what we do have. And again, I recognize that wearing nice clothes and having the nicest house in the city or whatever it might be, really, I couldn't give two hoots. That for me, it was carving out a life where there was time, that I had time to reflect on my life, and I had time to spend with my family and with my friends. Those are the things that really mattered. And climbing this ladder and trying to better myself in comparison with with other people, whatever that means, was meaningless. Minimalism and meditation, which for me are the same things really, is a lifestyle choice. It's like if you want to get a six-pack, you have to eat certain foods or not eating certain foods and train in a certain way in order to achieve that goal. The moment you stop eating that way and training that way, your six-pack starts to go. And it's the same with minimalism. It's not a goal. There is no goal. It's a lifestyle choice. It's a choice to live intentionally and to live around things that really give meaning and value to your life. It's often too about considering that it's not just the object on the shelf, it's the space around that object that's as important as the object that is on that shelf. And so there is no goal. It's constantly in flux. The kind of minimalist meditator I was when I was in my 20s was very, very different to the minimalist meditator that got married and has a family and has children. They're very, very different things. And it's okay to recognize that. It's okay to celebrate that the whole thing is in flux, as in your life, and the whole thing is in change. You don't need to set a goal and think that when you arrive there, that's the end of it. That's just the beginning. The next one is one that took me years to really understand, which is to buy better, buy quality. I used to buy clothes, the cheapest clothes I could buy. I'd go to, TK Maxx, etc., and I'd buy the cheapest crap I could buy. I had wardrobes full of t-shirts that I'd bought and never worn, or jeans I'd bought and never worn. Just stuff that I'd acquired over years because I liked it, but actually I never wore it. And some years ago, I went to see somebody in the UK, and he was a tailor, and he actually dressed me. I'd never been dressed before, but he showed me the kind of clothes that would suit me. And he also allowed me the opportunity to consider what I liked wearing rather than what I looked like, how I felt in those clothes. And it totally changed my approach. And I stopped buying cheap bargain bucket t-shirts. Maybe I pay 10 times as much for a t-shirt. So rather than paying $5, I'm paying $50. But the difference in quality is exceptional. And I'm not talking about labels, because most of the stuff that's got a label on it is crap too. It's about really good quality clothes. And all the good quality clothes that I paid more money for have lasted me way longer. So I now have a wardrobe where I can put my hand in the wardrobe and grab anything, and I know I'm going to like it, and I know it's going to fit me. And I have stopped just buying frivolous amounts of garbage. It's the same with stuff like, I'm a massive vinyl collector. I love vinyl jazz. And rather than buying a bargain bucket deck in a shop, I went and paid a pretty hefty amount of money for a very good quality 1960s record deck and amp and speakers. The difference in sound quality is off the scale, and it brings me no end of joy. So it's about being intentional with what you buy, but also buying the best you can possibly afford, and having less of makes a massive, massive difference. I can't tell you the amount of joy I've got back from that purchase of that record player is immeasurable. It was worth every penny I paid for it. And the same with the clothes that I now wear and the stuff that I have in my life. This is probably the most important, which is simplicity, is to really, really work out what it is you want from your life. We could afford, for example, to buy a nice new sexy car, and we don't. We drive what is it? It must be over 25 years old VW, and it's perfectly functional. I'm not interested in driving around in a flashy new sexy car. And to simplify your life in that way, to actually recognize what you consider to be of value to you in your life, is absolutely paramount. The easiest way to do this, it sounds like the easiest, but it's actually the hardest, is to spend some time really considering what it is you want in your life, what it is you want from your life. My advice is, when it comes to simplicity, is to start to punctuate your life with moments of quietness and stillness. So every day you sit outside in nature for 10 minutes with no phone and no communication with anybody, and you just watch nature. This is probably all the stuff I've done with thousands of students, this is probably the most confronting thing for people, is to sit in silence and be in nature. But once you get used to it, it will fundamentally change how you feel about yourself and about the life you lead. And weirdly enough, the answers to your questions will arise. You don't need to work them out. And you will begin to see what makes you happy. What makes me happy and what makes your friends happy or your family happy will be different for you. And you have to work that out for yourself. And the route to that is through quietness and through stillness. It's not through endlessly debating stuff. That helps, but you also need time on your own to find simplicity and stillness in your life. The last one, firstly, before I give you the last one, can I please ask you to like and subscribe my channel? My channel is tiny, but I do think that the stuff I'm saying is of value. And I think if you think it's of value too and you find it helpful, it would make a huge difference to me if you could just like and subscribe. The last one is to rage against complacency. I see so many people in their lives, in their relationships, settling for second best. They're clearly not happy, but they choose to continue to live the way they live because they're frightened or they don't know how to change it. All my life, I think it's caused me all sorts of trouble, but it's also been an absolutely fundamental part of my nature, is that I rail against that complacency. Life is so precious. It's obviously rare. I don't remember being dead before I was born, and I would imagine I won't remember what it's like when I die afterwards. I won't remember anything. So this moment, as far as I can tell, that's my theory. It's only a theory. But that theory of seeing that, well, I maybe have 80 years if I'm lucky to see and experience this extraordinary thing called life, that's an amazing gift. And to waste it in sort of a complacent soup of, well, I've just made do, it's just not good enough. It's not good enough for you. And you deserve way, way better than that. So I strongly advise you to really consider your life, how precious you are, what an extraordinary miracle you are that you were ever even born. Out of the billions and billions of possibilities you were born, and that you were given this extraordinary life, and to not waste a moment of it, but to drink and relish every single moment of your life as best you can. So just because your family or your friends do things a particular way doesn't mean it's the right way, and certainly doesn't mean it's the right way for you. You have to find that yourself. You have to find what makes you tick yourself. But I strongly advise you to set out on that journey. And often it's a lonely journey because a lot of people around you will think you're gone mad or something. They won't understand. But to really explore who you are and what you want from your life is absolutely fundamental to living a fulfilled life.